Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. A few of you may know, and some of you may have been on a trip recently, and that led me to the after trip checks. What would you check after a trip? So we'll probably just quickly try and keep this one short and move around the engine bay first from one side to the other. And then, as always, it's a lot of the aftermarket accessories that can come loose and get damaged, so you really got to triple check those. So as per, this is I suppose a lot of your normal checks by the manufacturers. You know, they call them daily or weekly or monthly and that sort of thing. So when you've been away on a trip, you know, you've probably, sometimes the vehicle's on dirt roads, rough and that sort of thing for extended periods, and things can work loose. So a few checks, obviously. It's always worth checking your fluid levels, so always making sure your brake fluid level's correct, and then you know you haven't got a leak generally. You should check or clean and replace your air filter and your MAP sensor if you've been in a lot of dusty conditions. Of course, you should check your engine oil level on the Prado, the yellow dipstick there, pretty straightforward stuff. Make sure all your aftermarket accessories are still secure and no bolts will work loose on all your mountings, whether it's the compressor or whether it's, you know, antennas, things like antennas and the bolts. Same thing, all the antennas, bull bars, nuts and bolts on bull bars and stuff. Generally don't come loose if they were tight correctly in the first place, but worth checking, especially those under the plates underneath the bull bars and stuff. Check all those nuts and bolts. Often see them missing or working themselves loose after a trip or on a trip. You know, once you've cleaned it all up, you'll then be able to see any leaks and deterioration a short time afterwards. Make sure your battery security is good, you know, they're nice and tight, they haven't worked loose, all your terminals and stuff. Any clips and brackets and stuff like that, these are generally pretty good. These plastic things not broken, but as they get older, the plastic from all the heat is going to get a bit brittle and eventually they could break. Now, those plastic clips, they kind of just, they're on a thread, they kind of just screw on, so you unclip the pipe and they sort of unscrew and re-screw back on either way. But so if you've got those broken, you want to replace those. Have seen those broken on some vehicles. Look, another precaution is always make sure your fuel lines aren't rubbing. Now, because this fuel filter has been remounted because of the dual battery, it puts it close to the engine, and a common thing we see sometimes is these hoses here rubbing on the edge of those covers on the Hiluxes or the 120s. Not a problem on the 150 because that's not there. To the point you can see where the hose was rubbing here. I've left that there to show you as a perfect example. Right, that was how it was set up when we purchased the vehicle many years ago, and that hose was rubbing on the edge of that cover. So if it was left, it would have ended in failure. That would have stopped the vehicle and there would have been fuel leaking, obviously. So what we did was shorten it back just so that there's clearance there, and put a bit of corrugated split tubing there, so if it did somehow reach it, it's only going to touch that. But we've got them shortened back so they're not going to touch. So that's all good, happy days. Under here, look, just always keep an ear out for any unusual noises. If you've got any issues with belts or bearings and stuff like that, going to let you down alternators and compressors and things like that as they get older, and all the dust and dirt and water. You just need to keep your ear on those things. So that pretty much completes most of the checks I do under the bonnet. The only other one, I suppose, is check the power steering level. As the vehicles get older, they do have some slow leaks at either the steering rack or the power steering pump, right? Or what do they call it? The vane pump. Okay, it's mechanically driven, bolted on the front of the engine. It's a bit different to the traditional types of external power steering pumps. So this is just a reservoir, not a pump, where the seal would leak and you'd be able to replace the pump, get it recode, change the seal, whatever the case may be. In this case, you've got to unbolt them, take it out. You still change the seal and stuff like that, but you don't see the leak because the oil's leaking into the engine. But if it's very slow, I would suggest save your money and don't worry about it. Same with that steering rack, you'll get a bit of a sweat on the boot. Not a big deal while you're only just topping this up. If it's only taking a few mil here or there, you know, 10 mil every 6 months, I wouldn't worry about it. It's a big expense for the repairs that are not really needed, if you know what I mean. If it's to the point that it's really wet, making a mess, and you pour it all in there, of course it needs to be repaired. Okay, so down under the engine bay side of things, I think that covers that. check all your light bars and stuff, you know, all your mounting points are all solid and tight still, and everything's tight, which if you fit it all properly in the first place, generally it is. So we haven't found anything on this vehicle that has worked loose or anything on the most recent trip. Obviously we need to have a look underneath the vehicle as well. There's not a lot to look under there. Probably refer to my other videos on all your general checks and stuff like that anyway. The main things I'd be checking is just have a look at your CV boots in case you've punctured one of them at all with a stick or something like that. You'll see some grease coming out. You might be able to get to replacing the boot early, or just the whole shaft. Check for play in the front wheel bearings. I mean, check all four, but the front ones mainly. And with all those river crossings, you want to lubricate your propeller shafts, your drive shafts, front and rear. 3 on the Prados, 3 grease nipples front and 3 on the rear, okay? And that's, again, covered in other videos, I think, where they are and how much grease to put in those. I'm not too sure if I've missed anything. I didn't think about it too hard. I just thought, well, I better run through a few things to check. And it's usually those aftermarket things. You could probably go and check your roof racks. Your roof rack, you know, that it's secure as well, all the bolts that hold that in place. Not much else really. Anything in the back storage systems. A lot of things work loose, aftermarket stuff. Underneath, I'm just thinking, check your bash plates. Like I said, underneath the plates on the bull bar, bash plates, plain wheel bearings, drive shafts, lube the propeller shafts. General look around. I don't think you're going to see much. Maybe if you did some bad driving, you might have some rock hits into your fuel tanks where you need to take those guards off and straighten them out. Or of course you can get onto k1.com.au and buy an upgraded fuel tank guard for that main fuel tank in the middle there on the Prados that gets hit quite a bit. They've got a heavy duty version of that. Anyway guys, I hope that's given you a few pointers for things you can check out and look for after a trip. And I suppose you'd probably check the same sort of things pre-trip. If you haven't already, subscribe and we'll have some more good information coming your way soon. Thanks for watching. See ya. Okay, so we'll run through a few things that you would check under the vehicle besides lubricating the driveline. Just have a check of your tyres, obviously to check in case, you know, you've done any damage to them on the treads, of course, and inside and out, you know, just in case there was any damage on the sidewall and you just slice one open. Unlikely though, I think, with all that professional driving everybody does. Just have a good look around. You know, you can check your ball joints, your bushes, usual sort of stuff. After a trip, the main things we want to focus on is, as I said, the hardware. These bolts underneath the bull bars, just check they're all tight, none are missing, particularly these ones along the middle here. You wouldn't believe the amount of times they come loose, vibrate, come out, and that plate ends up wrapped around underneath the front of the vehicle under this bash plate. So that does happen. Just make sure this one's tight as well. You can have a look at your bushes, you know about checking the bushes, that's all part of the service. Nothing specific about a after trip check, but you know, we're just having a quick check over, have a look at all your drive shaft boots. No grease spraying out everywhere, so that's good. Just in case you know, copped a stick going bush or something. Yeah, it's just a Prado, there's nothing to see here, the usual, no oil leaks. I suppose just check and make sure we've just lubricated the drive line and obviously given that slip joint a bit of a clean up, which is worth doing every now and then depending how dirty it is. Check all your boots. The boots on these Dobinson's monotuberate reservoirs are still looking good, so I suppose that's another point. Over to this side, I suppose you can have a look at your brakes. If you've been in mud, bog holes and dust and stuff, you can wear particularly your brake pads down really quickly. In this case, plenty of meat there, no oil leaks at any of the axles or the diff, the pinion. Everything there looks good. Look, so nothing to see here. As I said, have a good look at all your tyres. You can flick the rocks out of them too if you like. I'm actually going to do a review on these tyres as well. A few people asked. They saw, you know what's going on there. So yeah, we gave them a bit of a try. And pretty good overall, but we'll do another review in another video. This was just, you know, have a look around, see no damage in the fuel tank guards, just the usual rock spray. You just be careful how you drive, there's no need to hit any of the wrong places, you know. You can see some grass and sticks and that might drag over it, but no real damage there to that bash plate. Yeah, as I said, nothing to see here. Bit of a dent in there, but we can pop that out. There's a bit of wood in the fuel tank guard, we'll take that out. just worth a quick look around. There's nothing specific you're going to find. Did hit the bash plate at one stage, but obviously being the 4mm tough K-on, not a mark on it. Oh, that might have been it there, maybe, I don't know. But look, there's no damage to it that would put a dent in it or make it hard to get on or off. There you go, guys. So look, I hope that's helped. Just have a look around, make sure there's nothing loose falling off, and give it a good clean up. This has had a quick clean up. No reason why it shouldn't be at least that clean. Thanks for watching. So probably one of the last things that I haven't mentioned yet is, yeah, do give it a good clean up. I think I mentioned that. And you get to learn where all the bits of mud stick and hide and whatever. What you should do, if you've been on beaches, sand, anything like that, or even just mud, make sure you do wash out, give the chassis a good wash out as well. So see those holes there, 1, 2, 3, all these holes, just stick the hose in there, and particularly these ones up towards the front as well, and the tube that goes across from one side to the other, it's in behind the shocker there. Just give it all a good flush out with fresh water to make sure you leave it clean, which, you know, hopefully you can see, that's what we do. So it's all not full of mud and rust and stuff in there. Alright guys, hope that's helped. So yeah, all 4, yeah, not just this one, left, right, front, rear. Just think where the tyres throw the mud, that's where it's going to be. Okay.